The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed during this or any broadcast belong solely to our guests or our hosts. These broadcasts do not represent or reflect the views of their employers, sponsors, or affiliated organizations.
Get ready to flip your perspective on education. Welcome to the Flipboard EDU podcast, where every story is a plus. Join us as we explore innovative ideas, share stories, and discover the power of collaboration in the world of education.
We dive deep into the latest trends, strategies, and resources to enhance teaching and learning. From EdTech tools to classroom management tips, we've got you covered. Let's collaborate, communicate, and educate with the best educators in the world right here on the Flipboard EDU podcast with your favorite coach, Coach Jeffrey.
Welcome back, Flipboard fam. This is your favorite coach, Coach Jeffrey, and you're tuning into another insightful episode of the Flipboard EDU podcast. In today's episode, we have a special treat for you. We're bringing back an amazing guest who has had a wealth of experience and knowledge to share. That's right, Mandy Froehlich is joining us once again. Mandy has worn many hats in the education field, from being an elementary teacher to a tech integrator to the director and innovation of technology, and also a member of the EduMatch organization. And if that's not enough, she's also deeply passionate about Educator mental health, something that she knows firsthand from her own experiences and mine too. In this episode, we delve into critical issues surrounding teacher burnout, disengagement, and what steps educators can take to reclaim their passion and well-being. Plus, Mandy shares some exciting updates about her latest endeavors and how she's continued to make a difference in education and in the world. So like we always do about this time, let's collaborate, communicate, and educate with the best educators in the world right here on the Flipboard EDU podcast. Welcome back, Flipboard fam. This is your favorite coach, Coach Jeffrey, and I have another amazing guest back twice, just as nice, Mandy Froehlich. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. I normally ask our guests to tell our listening audience about yourself, but go ahead and reintroduce yourself to us, please.
So again, my name is Mandy Froehlich. I was an elementary teacher, a tech integrator, and a director of innovation and technology in Wisconsin for many years. And right prior to the pandemic, I decided to start consulting full-time. And then I went back and I worked in a school district during the pandemic to help out with the teacher shortage. And then I went on to being a director of innovation and philanthropy part-time for a school district currently in Wisconsin. And so that's what I do within the school districts. Outside of the school districts, I still consult full-time. I consult on everything from ed tech to educator mental health, because my roots are in ed tech and educator mental health is my heart work. So I really do focus a lot in on that. I've been doing that for about 10, 12 years since I burnt out from the classroom myself. The work that I do in that area is both research-based and experiential, because I went through it myself and had to figure out how to come back and heal from that. So that's what I do. I'm also the COO of EduMatch, which is a fantastic organization that offers professional learning and books and all of those kinds of things.
Yes, most definitely. I do want to get back to what originally made you come and realize that you were burnt out. I know that you were on our episode 72, and I may have asked this question for those who have listened to this episode and recognize who Mandy is. What was the initial thing that made you realize that you were burnt out on education? Not kids, but just the process of how school leadership is going.
Yeah, I think it was, well, I can tell you that there was one specific moment that happened to me that was my breaking point. And it wasn't actually, I wasn't in the middle of chaos or in the middle of crisis. It was actually a moment that I sat down at my desk and I was feeling super, super overwhelmed. And I was just not in a good place. And I went to move and stretch. And when I did, I knocked down an entire huge pile of papers I had to grade that were sitting behind me. And they probably just fell to the ground. But in my head, it looks like they exploded and fluttered down like in a movie. And when that happened, I just started to cry. And I thought to myself, I've got to get out of here. I can't stay in this position any longer. And that's when I started the process of looking for jobs elsewhere. I wasn't in the middle of chaos with kids. I wasn't in an argument with my principal. It wasn't anything like that. It was just a moment of realization when it hit me.
Understandable. So we both know that there are a plethora of teachers in that same position right now. What steps can we, or do you suggest that they take if they're in that position?
I think that first understanding why people disengage from their work is really important. Because if you don't know why you're disengaging, you don't know how to go about healing. A lot of people continue to talk about burnout, and burnout is absolutely one of the reasons why people disengage. But there are also other reasons like demoralization, for example, where we get into a position where we just feel like we can't do the work that we were meant to do anymore for various reasons. And it reminds me a little bit of how people have said for a really long time, remember your why. Teachers need to remember their why, and we need to make sure they know their why. But a lot of teachers know their why. They don't feel they can do their why in their current circumstances, whether that circumstance be that classroom, that school, that district. They just don't think they can do their why there. They become demoralized because they can't figure out how to make that difference that they desired to make when they got into education. And there's a lot of different reasons why people disengage. They could be like a professional adversity, a personal adversity, demoralization, burnout, teacher trauma, like active shooter drills and things like that. It can be like social injustices that are happening within the system that are causing people to need to protect themselves. And so there's a lot of different reasons why people disengage from their work. Understanding why they're doing it is really the first step. I think the second step is deciding really, and with all of our teacher attrition right now, is this the place where you can heal right now? Because if it's not, then big steps need to be taken. And when I say place, I can mean anything from that classroom, that school, that district, education in general. Is this a place that's going to support your healing? If it's not, a change needs to be made. Those things need to happen before you start working on how can I heal myself so that I can get better and into a better place and happy again with my work.
Do you think that the American educational system supports the mental health of educators?
Of course, blanket statements, right? Yeah, because I do know that there are schools and districts out there that are really working and making big changes in order to support teachers. So again, we're making a blanket statement. I just want to recognize that. But for all, no. And I think we're seeing the impact of that with people leaving and with the kind of strife that's coming along with them leaving. One of my messages really has been, make sure that when people leave, that we allow them to leave with love, because they worked hard in a profession that's very difficult and they're making a good choice for them, which is a good, even though it's not necessarily a good thing for the system, it's a good thing for them. And what we want them to do is we want them to leave, heal, and want to come back. That if we're so miserable about them leaving and so angry about people leaving, that's definitely not going to make them want to come back. As a system, understanding that, just recognizing that how we operate is not conducive to supporting people's mental health. And then also, we can't be angry when they want to leave. We need to be loving and supportive so that they go away if they need to, they heal, and then they come back because they got into education for a reason, to make a difference. That's a very strong emotional pull. They may want to come back one day. And to answer your question, I would say no.
Gotcha. And I asked you that because sitting on both sides, I've been a principal and I've had teachers to make those decisions. And of course, it put us in situations where students might be without a classroom teacher. but ultimately that teacher's mental health or that teacher's well-being for their family is also very important. And I just think that just from my own experience, there are some situations where my hands were tied in the support of teachers. And as far as a loaded question, I feel that there's not enough done to support the mental health of teachers, even though they say we have those breaks and you only work a certain amount of time and you get the whole summer off. That's not necessarily the same as it used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. The fact that teachers are so emotionally connected to their jobs and they still leave should tell the system how unsupportive it actually is. And then, of course, when I say teachers, principals as well, district administration as well, they're all really difficult roles, but can really throw a school into chaos if you're missing 30% of your teachers. And then we have the absentee issue right now on top of it. So you're not only missing 30%, but then you're also have sub shortages and all of those things going on. But in many ways, education has expected teachers to operate as a collective, but doesn't want to treat them as individuals. And yet we don't offer the same type of emotional and supportive benefits that a collective would offer, support people as a collective. And then they can't understand it when an individual operates as an individual and leaves. And I know it can be done because I've seen the schools trying to do it. So it's not impossible to do.
Again, I stalked you on Facebook, actually, because I had my own mental health issues, and I saw that you had a book coming out again. And I also, hold on one second, because this should let you know that keep up with your books right here. Oh, yeah, look at you. You didn't even know that. All right, but you got a new book coming out called The Reignited Educator. How much of what we talked about is a part of this book?
Some of it, definitely. I mean, I would say I would try to say it in different ways so that you're not going to read exactly the same thing I say, but some of the same topics are definitely in there. It really starts out with helping people understand what disengagement is, where educator and disengagement comes from. It's really a mixture of like employee disengagement and emotional disengagement, those two psychological concepts. And when I created it, specifically for educators, because there was nothing out there 10 years ago to even remotely support people. There wasn't even a lot of research and data when I started writing about these things. It's really a combination of those two, simply because teaching is such hard work and people do really identify strongly with their profession when they're a teacher. It starts out with talking about why people can disengage, how they disengage, and then how people can support themselves as an individual, and touches a little bit on the importance of healing and within a larger, how do we heal as an individual, how do we heal as an organization type thing. That's basically what the book is about.
I found it odd because my first master's was in counseling education. And you would think that as many administrators have been trained in counseling techniques, that most school districts would be a lot better than what they are as far as supporting the mental health of the workers and the children. And I think it's a pandemic. And another reason why I'm bringing this up is because this morning, I don't know why I was just I always get on Instagram. I don't know why, but anyway, I was on Instagram and I saw a teacher. It must have been a coach or whatever. I'm making an assumption. He was fist fighting a student. And I'm just thinking to myself, how did it get that far? You know, that like, how did it get that far? And I hate to bring it up, but I mean, with this conversation within the context of just paying attention to each other's mental health and maybe being a good coworker to somebody. That's something that's not all the time talked about as well.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. And I think one of the things that I think is happening right now that's a little different than what happened when I left the classroom is that when I left the classroom, a lot of what I said was, I'm not leaving because of the kids. I love my students. It was everything else going on in education that was driving me bananas. Like it was the administration, and it was this policies in general. It was the politics, both inside the district and at the state level. Like, it was all of those things that were hurting me as a human within my profession. Now, I think that's changed a little bit, because I think for a lot of people, they might say something like, I stay for the kids because I enjoy my kids. But student behaviors have changed over time and after the pandemic. And some of the behaviors that happen and have become more difficult to deal with have come just more emotionally taxing on people. And really, when teachers work in this position, they basically pay through their emotional capacity as they work. And so they're constantly doling out this emotion, whether it's from motivation to deal with a student who's melting down, to trying to pay for the emotional regulation that they have to employ because of a student melting down. That takes a toll, and we only have so much to pay with. And so when that kind of thing happens, I can only assume it's because the teacher had been paying and they were at a deficit. And when you have nothing left, those are the kinds of things that happen. And I'm absolutely 100% not excusing it. That does not make it okay. Having mental health issues does not excuse you from that type of behavior at all. However, it also is a reason why we need to put things in place to support people so they don't get to that point. Because there could have been 100 other things that happened to that teacher that day that put him in that position of reaching his breaking point. I met my breaking point at a desk because I was teaching fifth graders and they were at lunch or gym class or whatever. And I sat down and I hit my breaking point because I just had a second to myself. He hit his breaking point in front of a student. Again, not an excuse. There's no excuse for that behavior, but it is a fire alarm of what needs to happen in order to support people to not make it to that point.
I think your book and your blogs on your website are so timely because of the way that we all need to start supporting each other and having these conversations amongst each other as educators. I know that you are also a part of an amazing organization called EduMatch. How does EduMatch support with the learning of educators?
Yeah, so EduMatch we offer a lot of professional learning in just about any area you can possibly imagine. We have people that work in special ed, multilingual learners, we have leadership coaches, it just runs the gamut on basically who we have access to. We work with over 150 consultants who have all been teachers, or either are teachers currently or have been teachers. And so everybody has education background. Nobody comes from like private sector and has come into our system. And we really try to make sure that we're hitting all of those different areas. A lot of times people think we're predominantly ed tech, just because the CEO, Dr. Sarah Thomas, and I started out in ed tech. And so it's just an assumption, but we really do try to meet all of the needs of a district.
And that's another thing I also want to point out is that you're multi-faceted because of the fact that you are associated with some people with ed tech. The social emotional wellness part is a very good thing that probably needs to be just said a little bit more for those people who are looking for support, because that's the next thing. Like, where do you go for support for social emotional wellness? Is far and few and in between in most states. You have some new things happening besides writing books. What else you got on the radar?
I think I had actually released a self-published book recently called The 5-A-Day System. I had zero intentions of writing that book actually, but I've talked to so many people who are overwhelmed and just are like doom scrolling on their phone and all of these kinds of things. And they're like, I think it's interesting how people feel sometimes overwhelm is more of emotional overwhelm where they have a breakdown or something like that. But There's actually something called behavioral overwhelm, which means basically part of behavioral overwhelm is shutting down. And that's what you're doing when you're doom scrolling. You're looking at the Netflix menu for the 50th time and trying to find something to watch or something like that. And a lot of people were in that space. And so I was trying to explain the system to them. And I just realized that I didn't really have the words to be able to explain it, because it was a system I literally made up to help myself, because I was in that same place and there was no system that was working for me. So it's going to get me organized and going, and it just wasn't working. So I created the 5-a-day system for that. And that's actually been a lot of fun, just because it's the people who have used it have just come back with this amazing comments. Oh my gosh, I can't even believe it's so easy. But I think where it comes from is we're never actually taught, nor do we really teach how to prioritize. We talk about prioritizing things, but we don't teach people how to do that. Some people can do it very naturally. Some people just understand how to prioritize. Those are usually our high flyer kids who know how to do that kind of stuff and who are asking for extra work and their work is done early. And those kids are like those natural prioritization people. They just know how to do it. Whereas some of us don't do that, and we're procrastinators, and we laugh about it and we say, oh, I'm a procrastinator. It's not good for your system. It's not good for anxiety. It's not good for any of those things. And so the system really teaches you how to prioritize. That's basically what it does. Shows you how to break down larger tasks, shows you how to make sure that they get put on the calendar, shows you how to save time for things that come up at the last minute, shows you how to navigate if you have meetings or something else in a day in comparison to things that have to get done, like how do you navigate that time. And again, I really had no intentions of writing it, but it has definitely helped people, and that's always the goal, and that's always what makes me happy.
Yes, I know that if it wasn't for the last minute, nothing would get done.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my philosophy. I guess I need to pick that up too. Just do a better job. The 5-a-day system, right?
Yeah, it's literally the 5-a-day system. And you can search that with Froehlich and it'll come up.
Well, guess what? We cuss here too, so it's all good. It says get shit done. Congratulations. But anyway, I saw that you will not be ADHD and I will not have to run up and stick a microphone in your face. So thank you for doing my annual interview. What else do you have going on? Any other conferences you'll be at or that you're planning to be at this year?
I have a few virtual things that I'm doing, but otherwise the next conference I can think of that I'll be at is FETC in January. The next time that I know I'll be somewhere is districts and things where I'm keynoting or presenting or working with them or whatever it is in between now and there.
Wonderful. And where can our districts reach out to you and get you to speak to their staffs and maybe help them out?
Yeah, www.divergentedu.com or at Froehlich, Froehlichm.
Gotcha. And I need to get Froehlich right up. Hey, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today. It's always a pleasure talking with you. I'm always learning some. Just thank you for the work that you're doing because actually it really is very helpful.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate having you on, and I always appreciate you. You are such a kind human being. I just adore you. So I'm honored to be on your podcast, always.
And I'm glad I got this on recording because I'm going to have to play that for somebody. Thank you for tuning in to this insightful episode of the Flipboard EDU podcast with your favorite coach, Coach Jeffrey, and the knowledgeable Mandy Froehlich. Today's discussion on educators' mental health, burnout, and the evolving challenges within the education system has provided valuable perspectives and practical advice for all of our listeners. Mandy shared her personal journey through the burnout and importance of understanding the real reasons behind disengagement and actionable steps to heal and re-engage both personally and organizationally. We also dove into her upcoming projects and her new book, The Reignited Educator, which promises to be a vital resource for educators seeking to reignite their passions for teaching. Mandy highlighted her role in EduMatch and the supportive community it offers for professional development, proving once again that collaboration and mutual support are key to overcoming the hurdles in education. So as we wrap this up, remember that supporting each other and fostering a healthy work environment is crucial. If you want to explore more about Mandy's work or invite her to speak at your district, you can find her at www.divergentedu.com. So until next time, remember that in every Flipboard story, there's a plus.